What if the smartest person you know isn't smart at all? What if your friend, the one who got rich on crypto, isn't a financial genius, but just a lottery winner who's convinced himself he predicted the numbers? We've all seen it. The friend who went from posting memes about their dead-end job to posting screenshots of a crypto wallet with more commas than a grammar textbook. Suddenly, they're a visionary, a maverick who saw the future while the rest of us were stuck in the past. To some, they are proof that the system can be beaten. To others, they're just gamblers who hit a lucky streak. But the truth is far more complex and far more tragic than either of those stories. This is because most of us see this phenomenon through a cognitive distortion known as survivorship bias. It's a simple idea. We focus on the winners, the survivors, because the losers are invisible. Think of it like studying planes that returned from a war. If you only look at the bullet holes on the surviving planes and reinforce those areas, you're making a fatal mistake. The truly critical areas are the ones where the planes that didn't return got hit. In the world of crypto, we only see the friend with the new car. We don't see the thousands who quietly lost their savings. In this video, we're going to strip away the laser eyes and the to-the-moon bravado. We're going to analyze the psychological journey of the crypto-rich friend, not as a financial story, but as a modern tragedy about identity, illusion, and the devastating cost of a dream that was never truly real. Most people see the crypto success story as a simple equation. Early risk equals massive reward. He's the guy who bought some obscure coin when it was worth less than a gumball and held on. He's a digital frontiersman, a modern-day gold prospector who struck it rich. We see his Instagram stories, the confident jargon about bull markets and alt seasons. We hear him dismiss traditional finance as a dinosaur. He didn't just make money. He achieved a kind of intellectual and moral superiority. He was right when everyone else was wrong, and the evidence seems to support this. He'll show you the chart, pointing to the exact moment he bought in. He'll recount the naysayers, the family members who told him he was crazy. His victory feels earned, a direct result of his foresight and courage. He isn't just lucky, he's validated. But if you listen closely, a strange pattern emerges. He talks endlessly about his wins, but never about his system. He can articulate a repeatable strategy beyond, "I had a good feeling," or "I did my own research." And this is the first crack in the myth. What if the performance of genius is just that, a performance? What if he's simply a storyteller who found a great story to tell, with himself as the hero? To understand what's really happening, we have to look at this not through finance, but through the lens of psychology, specifically the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is a cognitive bias where people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. It's not arrogance, it's a blind spot. A novice chess player who beats another novice might think he's ready for a grandmaster. In crypto, a volatile and largely unpredictable market, a lucky guess can feel indistinguishable from genius. Your friend didn't develop a brilliant thesis. He pulled the lever on a slot machine and hit the jackpot. But because the win was so massive, his brain can't accept it as luck. It has to be skill. Let's re-examine that conversation where he explained his strategy. Remember when he said he analyzed the white paper and believed in the tech? Now look at it through the Dunning-Kruger lens. Was he really conducting a sophisticated tech analysis? Or was he just repeating talking points he saw on Reddit and YouTube? The technical jargon wasn't a sign of expertise. It was an incantation, a way to convince himself and others that he wasn't gambling. He was making an intelligent investment. This is our first major revelation. The story of his success isn't an explanation of what happened. It's a retroactive justification for a blind risk that happened to pay off. What looks like insight is, in reality, the mythology of a lucky gambler. But if all that is true, then we have to confront the darkest part of the story, the crash. The moment the market turns and the endless green lines turn blood red. This is the great filter. For a true investor with a strategy, a downturn is a calculated risk, perhaps even a buying opportunity. But for the person whose entire identity is built on being a genius, it's an existential threat. Suddenly, the confident visionary on Instagram goes quiet. Or worse, he becomes militant. He posts diamond hands memes, not as a strategy, but as a desperate prayer. He calls the crashing market a healthy correction and tells everyone to buy the dip. But his tone has changed. The calm superiority is gone, replaced by a frantic, almost religious fervor. He's not trying to convince his followers anymore. He's trying to convince himself. This collapse doesn't just threaten his wallet, it threatens his entire sense of self. Because if the market was just a random casino, then he isn't a genius. He's just another guy at the slot machine who has to give his winnings back to the house. If his identity is so fragile that a market dip can shatter it, what was he really chasing in the first place? To answer that, we have to look past the charts and go to the source of his ambition. He wasn't just after money, he was after significance. In a world where traditional paths to success, college, a steady career, a mortgage, feels slower and less certain, crypto presented a seductive shortcut. It was a new frontier where the old rules didn't apply. This narrative is incredibly powerful, and it's not new. Think of the California gold rush in the 1840s. Thousands of ordinary people dropped everything to chase a dream. They weren't expert geologists. They were driven by a story of reinvention and instant wealth. Most of them went broke, but the myth was sustained by the handful of spectacular successes. Your friend is the modern-day prospector. He didn't just buy a digital asset. He bought into a powerful cultural narrative that promised to make him special. His wealth was the proof that the narrative was true. But I know what you're thinking. What about the people who did get out? The early adopters who cashed out millions and are now genuinely set for life. Surely their success proves it wasn't all just a delusion. That moment of incredible profit seems to refute everything we've said. But this is the final, most deceptive illusion. Let's deconstruct that perfect exit. Even in this best-case scenario, their success serves a darker purpose. Their story becomes the ultimate marketing tool for the entire ecosystem. They are the face on the lottery billboard, the living proof that it could be you. Their win, whether by skill or by luck, is weaponized. It fuels the FOMO, the fear of missing out, in everyone else. It gives credibility to the casino. Every article written about them, every podcast they appear on, becomes an advertisement that pulls in a new wave of hopefuls who are almost guaranteed to lose. So even their undeniable virtue, their massive win, was ultimately in service of the system's greatest flaw, its need for a constant supply of new money from future losers. Their success wasn't proof that the system worked. It was the bait in a trap for everyone else. So let's assemble the full mosaic. It begins with a random bet, a lucky guess in an ocean of pure chance. That luck, filtered through the Dunning-Kruger effect, is mistaken for genius. An identity is born. This new identity is performed on social media, creating a powerful myth that attracts others. Then comes the inevitable crash. The genius is faced with a choice: admit it was all luck, or double down on the fantasy. He chooses the fantasy because his identity is now more valuable than the money itself. The final breaking point isn't when his portfolio hits zero. It's the quiet moment, months later, when he finally has to accept that he wasn't a prophet. He was just the guy who got a front row seat for the sunrise before being left alone in the dark. Now that we understand the machine that built him and broke him, what does his final chapter look like? The answer is more profound and more tragic than simply going broke.